As I sit here on the verge of becoming a film student once again, I can't help but reflect on some of my earliest experiences as an undergraduate back at UT. One of the films I keep coming back to is the very first project that I ever shot on film. It was for a class called RTF 318, which was the stepping stone to the upper division production classes. In RTF 318, we had to create 3 projects: a still photo project, a video project, and a Super 8 film project. Looking back on it now, it's really interesting that the video project was seen as a lesser project than the film project, because back in that day, film was just unequivocally superior. And so that progression made sense, even though you could do more complex stuff with that video project. For that Super 8 project, we had to turn in a physical reel of developed film. And so there was no sound, and all the editing had to be done in camera. And that turned out to be a really good exercise in visual storytelling, and also a good exercise in how setting limits can promote creative solutions. It was also an early lesson in how the show must go on, even when everything starts to go wrong around you, as things so often did in those early projects. The film I made is called Kidnapping Part 1, and it's one of the only early films that I still will show people. You can see it on my website, but it's only 1.5 minutes long, so I'm actually going to show it to you right now, and then we'll come back and discuss a couple things related to that production. So there are a few things that I want to discuss. The first is the blue cast to the film was actually an accident. We were shooting tungsten film, which I believe all Super 8 color film was tungsten balanced, and we forgot to put on the 85 filter to balance that out. It was actually a little clip that kind of slotted into the top of the Super 8 camera, so it wasn't really an intuitive design. And we caught it after the first 1 or 2 shots, but because it was an in-camera edited exercise, we couldn't go back and fix it. We just had to roll with that original mistake and shoot the whole film without the filter. I've gotten used to it over the years, and I think it kind of complements the tone of the film, but it definitely was not the original plan. Another thing you certainly noticed is that some post-production has been done on this movie, even though I said the original assignment was a silent film, in-camera editing, turning in a physical reel of film. My plan was always to get it transferred to video and do some post-production for my portfolio version. And my original plan was to actually shoot 2 reels of film, the color version from the couple's perspective, and then a black and white version from the kidnapper's perspective. And I was going to turn in whichever one turned out to be better, and then get them both transferred to video and splice them together to create sort of the definitive version of Kidnapping. And the reason we only have Kidnapping Part 1 is because the camera actually broke during the color shoot. Right towards the end of that scene, camera just stopped working. And it was a camera that I borrowed from a friend. The school actually didn't provide us any cameras. We were on our own to try and acquire whatever we could to do the project, which seems crazy now and seemed crazy back then as well, but that's just the way that it was. So I didn't really have any support for it. We tried troubleshooting it. We couldn't figure out what was going on with it, and ultimately just had to pack it in. And luckily, we had shot enough to sort of make the movie work, but I didn't get to finish the vision, as it were. And that's the explanation for the very last shot in the version that we saw, which is a repeat shot with fake slow motion to try and simulate what we were going to shoot, which was a couple of shots that were going to reveal that the girl was actually the mastermind behind the kidnapping. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the light leaks. And the first of these appears during the scuffle where the kidnappers are taking the guy. And that was totally unintentional. I was running around trying to do the shaky cam sort of thing to hide how fake the violence was. And the camera came away from my eye. And this was a reflex viewfinder camera, so light snuck in and overexposed the film. Kind of like the lack of the 85 filter and the blue cast that it created. It's grown on me over the years, and I feel it kind of works for the movie, but it was definitely an accident. The second light leak that happens in the trunk of the car was totally on purpose, where I pulled the camera away from my eye to try and create in camera a fade to white, and it worked out pretty well. In the version that we saw, it's been enhanced in post with like an actual white frame and a dissolve in there, but the in-camera version worked out pretty well. The reason I like reflecting on these early films is they remind me of the need to be flexible to deal with all the inevitable problems that come up. Malfunctioning equipment, locations falling through, actors simply not showing up to set. All those things have happened to me more than once. I've been described as a perfectionist, probably accurately. And a lot of people say that in a very positive way, but the reality of it is that it makes it very difficult to get anything done. Because as soon as a problem comes up, my gut reaction is just to quit and then start over from scratch. And in the real world, where you have limited time and limited money and people waiting on you, that's not a legitimate option. So looking back at all the times where I've survived these catastrophic problems like cameras breaking or actors not showing up, and still been able to put out something that I'm reasonably happy with, goes a long way towards keeping me motivated. And I'm going to need it as I go back to the world of student filmmaking, where I know a lot of stuff is going to go wrong. But I'm also looking forward to all the creative solutions that I'm going to come up with to deal with those problems, and the novel work that's going to come out of it.